Welcome to another session of Stelmo's Rants and Raves. I'm Stelmo. Let's just jump right in here. I'm listening to Robert Gouvier. I hope I'm saying his name right. And he is an attorney, and he has very powerful, great YouTube channel. Keeps us up to date on all the important legal matters that are occurring around this country. And today he was talking about the H-1B visa and all of the fraud involved in it. You know, there's one area that I don't hear too many people talking about, and that is, we elect representatives into Congress, into the House, and senators get elected into the Senate, and these people they crave to be appointed onto the various committees that these bodies have. And these bodies are allegedly looking over the Americans' business, so to speak. And, the problem is they're not doing a very good job. Look at all of this fraud that somebody like Nick Shirley is finding. And he's still going out there and he's still finding additional fraud. Well, my question is, where are the congressmen and senators who have oversight over these areas? Apparently, oversight is translated into no sight because all this thievery was going on right under their noses and they had no clue. Or at least that's what they want us to believe. Or perhaps they did have a clue, and maybe they were involved in it as well. And maybe that's just why we're not hearing about any arrest of any politicians who have oversight over this various stuff. And, this country can't survive these problems, I don't believe. Because right now, and I feel sorry for the president, he just cannot get a DOJ that's willing to attack the obvious crime that all of us can see that's occurring out there on a daily basis. That there's, you just have to wonder, there's just so much crime. And things that aggravate me, I'm going to say now, it was about 2 weeks ago. We had Cash Patel out there, and I guess we can call it he's bragging that we know who financed all of the insurrection up in Minnesota. Well, that's all well and good, Cash, but where are the arrests? Nothing's happening there, huh? Yeah, okay, I'll concede there have been some arrests of the lowest level participants in this crime. But the upper level participants in this crime, they're all able to walk scot-free because there's no charges coming. How long does it take? Okay, and maybe it's somewhat frustrating for some of these committees because you do have people out there. Representative Comer, I used to respect him a lot more than I do now. But the big problem I have with Comer is he never impeached Joe Biden. We heard from him a number of times when he was saying, well, we want to complete the investigation. We don't want to do this piecemeal, and all other nonsense. That's really not how things work. But it's an excuse why they're not doing anything. Now, I believe in my heart that it wasn't so much Comer as it was Johnson who told Comer, no, we're not going to impeach the president because, President Biden's a nice man, or whatever other nonsense they spew. I don't even know what excuse they give. But with all the crime that Biden committed that we know about, not one impeachment. Yet on made up nonsense, they impeached Trump twice. And the DOJ has done nothing, zip, zero, nix, nada, to fix this problem. Here the other day we're hearing about Smith, that devious lawyer, that dangling dipstick. Uh, you know, he illegally obtained phone records of senators and representatives, and nothing is happening. Nothing. And again, let me get back to these committees. At least some of the committees have done some work. And they've sent criminal referrals to the DOJ. Now, when they do these criminal referrals, it's not like they just pull some charge out of the air and send it over. No, they investigate, they have hearings, they subpoena documents, they subpoena witnesses. They put together a packet showing the proof that satisfies all the elements of proof necessary for the prosecutions by the DOJ. So you have to ask yourself, what is the DOJ doing with all of these referrals? They have the evidence. And see, that's the frustrating part. We hear about the evidence. We hear about it all the time. But as much as we hear about this evidence, it's never actually used in any kind of criminal proceeding. I want to get back to this H-1B1 visa. It's a problem. It is a problem. And why we have this? Well, the reason should be fairly simple. These big businesses contribute to these politicians, and then the politicians are beholden to these companies. And these companies don't want to pay Americans when they can get somebody, let's say from India or Pakistan or wherever, that'll do the job for significantly less money. And yet, some Americans are partially complicit in this because they always want to buy the products that are have the cheapest price. And I don't necessarily blame them for that. But you have to understand sometimes these things are being manufactured by someone who took an American's job away from them. And I don't know how we overcome this. And all right, I live in Florida in a very red county in a very red state. Let me put it that way. Yet I know, and let me tell the story how it progressed. I have one store that I go in somewhat frequently, and it's one of the places where I buy my lottery tickets, my Vice there. And all of a sudden one day, there was this new gentleman there, young guy, and he didn't speak any English. And I'm like, what's up with this? And I had to do a lot of pointing and using fingers and stuff. And I'm saying, boy, this is no good. Well, in less than 2 years, this gentleman, not only does he have his Florida driver's license, but he has his gold star on it, which means he's been verified. And I have to wonder, how is it that somebody can come here from India and become a citizen so fast? And I feel sorry for the guy because now he claims he's working for family. I don't know who he's working for, but they require him to work 7 days a week from open to shut. And for whatever reason, he seems to be content with that. And after all, I don't know how long it's going to last, but apparently he's now an American citizen somehow. I don't get how this process works. Because if you multiply, all right, I don't want to sound racist here, but the reality is most convenience stores, at least here in Florida, are owned by people who, let me put it this way, English is not their primary language. and they just keep bringing people over and bringing people over, and and, and this is not going to bode well, and it's not boding well, I should say. You know, we have. See, I'm still aggravated because I believe the terrible economy that we have is actually still the result of the Biden policies. I don't think Trump has had enough time to get enough of his policies because we have a do nothing Congress who've done very, very little. Uh, they did do the big, beautiful bill, which I don't know, it wasn't what was represented. You know, I still get frustrated at the president because he'll keep talking about every once in a while when he brings up the big, beautiful bill, he'll talk about how there's no tax on Social Security. Well, that's not exactly what happened. And that's gaslighting. He's lying to the American people. What happened is uh, people now get an additional deduction. And I think it's, let's say it's 5,000. I don't think it is 5,000, but even at 5,000, at a 40% tax rate, which most people don't have. But anyway, at 40% at 5,000, what are you looking at? A couple $100 savings. So don't get me wrong, that's a good step in the right direction for Social Security recipients. And you know, I feel sorry for a lot of Social Security recipients. Unfortunately, too many people uh, don't plan for retirement as they should, and they find themselves relying on Social Security. And you know, in my lifetime, I can say I remember when people were able to live on Social Security. Granted, they might not have had the most active life outside of the home. I mean, they were limited in what they could do, but they met all of their necessities. They had food, they had shelter, they had clothing. But today, I don't see how it's possible for anyone to get by on just Social Security. And that's why, you know, prior to the vid, uh, the Walmart supercenters in our area were open 24/7. With the pandemic, they did away with the open 24 hours, and they now close. And as a result of that, let me say, there's a overall loss of jobs because the store's just not open as much. But uh, anyway, you have all of these people who in our economy are hurting. And I don't see the administration being as active as they should be to help these people. You know, I want to take a time out here. I want to remind any listeners out there of a problem I have. I have a short term memory problem, and I don't have either Alzheimer's or dementia. And interestingly, the neurologist can't quite do they can't quite come up with exactly what I have. Uh, and I believe that the reason is that they just can't be honest that this is a result of allowing the government to put poison into my arm twice from this pandemic. And it's a shame. But I bring that up now because sometimes I'll lose the point that I'm trying to make. But I am able to just keep talking. And so sometimes it may not uh, seem together exactly as well as it could. And I apologize for that. But one thing I've said is I'm going to keep people up to date on my condition and you know what they tell me. You know, right now I'm in a holding pattern. Last time I seen a neurologist, they increased my medication that they're giving me a little bit. And is it helping or not? You know, it's really hard to say. Some days it's far worse than others. But I did read a article Uh, and I regret not having printed out this article to keep it, but it talked about a peer-reviewed study which showed that people who took those injections in their arm uh, as they age are experiencing problems with their brains. And perhaps that's why there's such a, I'll say, backlog in getting appointments with neurologists. There, a lot of people are going to them, and a lot of people out there who haven't quite reached senior citizen status may find themselves also being subjected to this problem down the road. And we've identified again so much illegal actions that happened with that whole pandemic. And who has been charged? Nobody. And apparently the American voters are happy with that. I don't see them out protesting ever anything. So this is something I don't get, but it is what it is. And but anyway, to get back to these H-1B visas, they just need to be done away with. And companies are using these visas to bring in cheap labor to put Americans in the unemployment line. And right now, our economy is not doing what this administration is representing to us. It is doing. And that don't bode well because, well, this is all what happens when you elect a brain-dead individual and allow him in office for 4 years and let all his lower minions decide the radical policies and everything that they're going to be doing. But I guess Americans are happy, they elected Trump. And let me say, the president is trying as hard as he can. Yeah, do I think he makes mistakes? Yeah, no doubt. I think if he was being honest, he'd tell you, too, he's made some mistakes. Or perhaps he just wishes he had done things a little differently. And one of those things is certainly this war. Now, yes, we are back to bombing, and but the talks continue. And at some point, we'll get more gaslighting. And again, I find this problematic because the country is facing so many problems, and it seems like we're not solving any of them. And this war is going to cause tremendous problems, far above and beyond where we're at right now. Inflation is really going to go through the roof. And I would hope that they would end this war in Iran. And the only way that they can end it to be effective is with a victory. They have to defeat the IRGC. Right now, the president, for whatever reason, hasn't even invited them to the negotiating table. He is negotiating with the civilian government. And yeah, he keeps telling us they want to make a deal. And they make deals. The only problem is they're not the ones with the weapons. They're not the ones firing on the ships in the Strait of Hormuz. And okay, there is some ship traffic now, but it's certainly nowhere near what it has to be. And one reason that there's still a problem is a lot of these ships' insurance companies have told them, no, we're considering that a combat zone. If you go through there and you get hit, it's all on you. We're not paying. And so they don't. It was just a couple of weeks ago I was reading where, and I don't remember who the group was or whatever doing this, but they were coordinating to take a lot of the sailors that were on these ships for months without moving to get them out of the area, to get them back to their home countries. And you got to feel sorry for all these shipping companies who are having to pay the salaries while the ships are doing nothing, just waiting. But the president, I don't know. I can't figure it out, and that's what makes it odd. In fact, I don't mind saying Donald Trump in his first term was a great, great, great president. Donald Trump here in his third term, I don't know. I have a lot more problems with what's happening. And I'll be addressing a lot of those problems over the next couple of days. And I hope that if anyone here has any questions or wants to make any comments or anything, I would love to read them. I would love to answer any questions you might have. At least give it my best shot, see where we go. But in the meantime, we start another week here, and not sure how it's all going to play out, but it's a weird, strange world we all find ourselves now living in. But we have to deal with it as best we can. And with that, I wish you all a good day. Stay safe. Bye-bye.